are the average review scores for Morrowind, a game that looks and plays like this. And these are the average review scores for Starfield, a game that looks and plays like this. Looking at the review scores for both of these games, it kind of seems like Morrowind's the objectively better game. And that got me thinking, which of Bethesda's single-player open world games got the best review scores? And can I see there's a correlation between the quality of a Bethesda game and the quantity of positive reviews a Bethesda game would receive? And looking at all these reviews kind of got me thinking, there's a problem with how we talk about games online. Alright, let's start this off with Morrowind, released on the first Xbox and the PC. Morrowind was honestly pretty innovative, considering it was a giant open world game running on a system with a fraction of the power of a cell phone. Seriously, if this thing tried to render the beard blades of a Skyrim Nord, this system would probably explode. And honestly, the hardware limitations is what makes a game like Morrowind special. But it doesn't matter what I think. What do the reviews say? IGN gave this game a 9.4, but considering currency transfer and inflation, that puts it at a 94% on Metacritic. This is a tour de force, arguably the best Xbox game since Halo itself, and certainly one of the more interesting and important ones. This game is vast, perhaps the biggest video game ever. So IGN, not bad, but PC Gamer gave this game an 83%. And despite the relatively high review score, I get the feeling that this reviewer just didn't like this game that much. Every good RPG has a journal, but not every RPG's journal is good. Morrowind's is awful. To be honest, in his defense, Morrowind's journal was kind of clunky. So in Skyrim and Oblivion, mission objectives are sorted by quest, but in Morrowind, it's literally just in the order you receive them in. They fixed this in the Tribunal DLC,
but it kind of sucked at launch, to be honest with you.
I desperately want to be able to praise Morrowind unreservedly for creating a believable, self-contained fantasy world in which, even once the main quest has been completed, you can carry on living and adventuring. But whereas the finest RPGs have the atmosphere and story to suck in every gamer, Morrowind requires limitless reserves of patience and disbelief suspension. I don't know about you, but that just doesn't sound like a B- score to me. That's one of the biggest problems I have with reviews. How do you rank a subjective experience with an objective number? Do these scores even represent the reviewer's experience? Or are these numbers based on what the reviewer thinks that the player is going to think of the game? I'm going to get to all of that, but first let's look at a couple of these reviews. Reviews in the 90% range praise this game for its depth and just the sheer amount of stuff you can do in this game. Yahoo says that this game isn't for everyone, but the people it's grabbed are hooked for good.
Suck in every gamer.
Game Informer agrees with Yahoo, but says that little junior Xbox players' attention spans can't handle this game. Kids these days with their Halos and their Xboxes, they just can't comprehend this masterpiece. Nearly every single review I looked through mentioned the length of this game. Beating Morrowind takes a ton of time. But these are just the critic reviews. I want to know what the average gamer thought about this game. Now the thing about that is that finding actual launch day reviews is a little difficult. Metacritic really only lets you sort reviews by the newest review, and it only carries reviews from like the last 10 years. So I had to do what any desperate man would do. You see, if you go to Google, scroll past the AI overview to the bottom of the page, you'll see these little numbers. You see, these mysterious numbers, these are pages. If you click on number 2, you'll get more results. And to my surprise, I found exactly what I needed on the second page. I don't know if people know about this, but this is insane technology. But you see, what I'm looking for are ancient records known as forums. Before social media took over public conversation, these forums used to be a safe haven for gamers to express their opinions, and then usually devolve into an argument on who's correct. So the problem with trying to rank this game though is that a lot of these reviewers didn't give a number to their experience with the game. They would just mention the things they did and didn't like. The more I looked at reviews, the more I could find literally every type of opinion there could be on this game. Literally, if I were to rank opinions from liked it to hate it on a scale, I could find an opinion for every single point on that scale. And looking through reviews is just going to get harder as these games sell more and more. Meaning more people talk about them, and the places these people talk about them are changing and evolving. That is not just going to affect just these reviews. It's going to shape how we see these games and Bethesda as a whole. But for now, we're in 2002, and I'm ranking Morrowind here. Looking at it from a wider perspective, this game was kind of innovative. Some of the technical bugs, weird glitches, and staticness of the world made this game kind of a hit or miss experience for people.
The Elder Scrolls 4: Oblivion.
So Oblivion released just under 3 years later for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. This is the game that really blew up the Elder Scrolls series. Sales data gets a little muddy, but Morrowind sold about 4 million copies, while Oblivion sold 9.5 million copies, according to Game Rant. They'd never lie to me. But it's no wonder this game sold well. Oblivion pushed the boundaries of what an RPG could be. You see, Morrowind had a lot of depth to its mechanics, but the interaction with the world left a lot to the player's imaginations. Oblivion fills that information in. Now, is it perfect?
The temple all on the same night. Wait a minute, let me do that one again.
Morrowind earned recognition for being one of the best role-playing games in years, but the immersive and long-lasting experience it provided wasn't for everyone. Oblivion is hands down better, so much so that even those who normally have no interest in a role-playing game should find it hard to resist getting swept up in this big, beautiful, meticulously crafted world. But Oblivion's technical leaps weren't a flawless experience. Oblivion is a messy masterpiece, accomplished, bold, huge, and occasionally rough around the edges. Your adventures are more varied than those of any other game I could name, and magnificently rendered by the game's powerhouse graphics and physics. It's narcotically addictive. I think it's hard to overstate how much of an impact this game had on people, and this is really where Bethesda established their magic formula. Well, I have it. Had played for about 5 hours, I would be the first to be disappointed by faults. And yes, there are a few, but this game is utter brilliance. Its unabashed openness and beauty never fails to astound and astonish me. I am a Morrowind veteran, no stranger to Tamriel. Even I never believed it could be this good. Just like Morrowind, you could find every single type of opinion that someone could have on this game. Is there an objective perspective for determining if a game is bad or good? Some of the charm that people find in this game comes from the kind of jankiness and rigid dialogue. And so much so that when they remade this game, they literally kept the jank in it. They re-recorded dialogues to sound janky. And you can look at the remake's review scores. It literally did fine. However, these scores aren't everything. And I'd like to get into that, but first, let's rank Oblivion. Considering the technical leaps that this game has and the reception it received, I'm ranking Oblivion here. So, a decent jump. So far, there's a direct increase in quality that will increase the reception of the game. Although I do wonder how much innovation plays into the reception of the game. Fallout 3 released in 2008 on the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. So this game is not as big of a technical leap as Oblivion is, but it's important for two reasons. One is that it means that the Bethesda format is not just tied directly to the Elder Scrolls. And two, it means that Bethesda is capable of working on more than one game at once. I mean, there's no way Fallout 3 went from pre-production to released in 2 years. Reviews for Fallout 3 get really interesting because people are coming off with the perception they had of Oblivion. So, what did people think of this game? GameSpy 100. Yes, Fallout 3 is a lot like Oblivion, with guns, but it's a superior game in nearly every way, as it features a more engaging storyline, impeccable presentation, and hundreds of hours of addictive gameplay. That's a common opinion I've seen with a lot of Bethesda games. People find these games addicting. Worth playing, that's the company, but they think it's worth playing. Fallout 3 isn't perfect. Fans may focus more on what it isn't rather than what it has become in Bethesda's hands. But its shortcomings pale before the fun that kept pushing me ahead to find out what was over the next hill of rubble. Nuking your social life, playing for weeks at a time. People play these games for a long time, and they're getting addicted. So what is it about Bethesda games that make them so addictive? You see, reviews are subjective, but being able to quantify Bethesda games' open world traits will be helpful in determining the quality that people like about these games and what makes them appealing to people. So I want to figure out the Bethesda formula. Morrowind, Oblivion, and Fallout 3 all share these traits. Written quests that tell a story, dungeons with loot, factions players can join, and towns filled with interactable NPCs. So yes, these traits are great and all, but the real magic is figuring out how they work together. For example, in Ubisoft's games, you also find quests, explore locations, and loot to find, but it's all presented as a checklist. The effectiveness of the formula is lost when it feels like it's just a theme park map where, oh, look at all the stuff we have here. Look, there's so much stuff to do. Why don't you go climb this tower or go over this area? This is Zone 5 with 30 quests in this area. Isn't that cool? Don't you want to go explore? You see, the real magic of a Bethesda game is the way the systems encourage the player to want to explore on their own. That magic of exploration is lost when it's a checklist. Yes, you do it and it can be fun and people enjoy it, but it's missing. There's a trait, there's a quality that's really missing from it when you just know everything you're gonna get in an area. And I think that feeling that the world is larger than the player, the fact that they can go and explore other areas, is what makes these games so intoxicating. And if you ask someone what they think about playing a Bethesda game, you'll probably hear them talk about their experiences or feelings. Or they'll mention the bugs. These games have lots and lots of bugs. Although sometimes in Oblivion, that still is a good thing for them. Okay, but back to Fallout 3. So you have the expectations of the original Fallout series. See, they look and play very differently than what Bethesda did to Fallout 3. And you see, not everyone loved what Bethesda did. Fallout is famous. It's remembered. It's hailed as a great RPG. Now, will the third game be remembered? It's my one personal thought that keeps me from succumbing to cynicism, that it will be forgotten, unlike Fallout 1. I voted, what? Fallout 3 exists? Because that is how much recollection of this train wreck of Bethesdian proportions I'll have in 10 years' time. These are the responses to a forum poll that was asking, will Fallout 3 be remembered? But if you look at the poll, the majority of people say that Fallout 3 will be remembered. But if you scroll down, the first response is a negative one. There's something about this comment being written out that just feels more powerful than seeing 700 people saying it will be remembered. We can read positive review after positive review, see the scores a game has. But seeing people have negative opinions on something just seems to stick with me more than the positive ones. And I think that's why understanding individual perspective on people's opinions on games is so important. You can use opinions like this to justify why Fallout 3 is objectively a bad game. People like to surround themselves with like-minded people. And the other thing with forums is that they're a perfect place for people to kind of end up in a bubble. And that's exactly what happened with this forum. No Mutants Allowed has a reputation of people who only like Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. And looking through the site, I did notice that people tended to be negative for the Bethesda games. But my point is that the individual perspective of people is lost when the reputation of the site takes precedent over what individual people are saying about their individual experiences with a game. Ultimately, their opinions don't matter, which would be a nice way to wrap this video up. But people's opinions do actually matter, and we have a legitimate reason to want to understand what people are talking about with games. But Fallout 3, ranking it here.
Skyrim.
Skyrim is a cultural moment in video games. In some ways, I kind of feel like Skyrim is Bethesda's magnum opus, taking a lot of the aspects of Oblivion and polishing out those rough edges. Like almost every one of their games, Skyrim launched on the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC. It's kind of crazy how many Bethesda games actually released on the Xbox 360 and PC compared to like now, where I think one game released on Xbox One, unless you count Skyrim 1,000 times. Anyway, critic reviews for this game kind of popped off. No other game I know of operates with this many moving parts to create such an immense world, filled with this much choice in how you engage its excellent, endless fiction. It's one thing when a game offers dozens of hours of gameplay. It's quite another when that gameplay is good enough you'll want to live in this world for that long. And weaving together the extraordinary craftsmanship evident in the music, storytelling, adventure, and world design of Skyrim, Bethesda has created a very special game indeed. One that's likely to remain in the affections of gamers for many years to come. Little did they know how true that statement would be. Gamer.nul. Gamer.nl. Gamer.null. Skyrim is Bethesda's magnum opus. That's what I said. That. Skyrim is Bethesda's magnum opus. Okay, because this game's so well, you're gonna start seeing wildly different opinions on this game. Some people would have you think, I don't know, this game beat them up in middle school or something. That brings us back to the same problem with reviews that I talked about earlier. The internet at this point is essentially made up of a bunch of different bubbles. And I think a lot of the times we find ourselves in one of those bubbles and thinking we understand the majority of what people think about a game, or any subject really. Discerning public opinion gets harder when you consider social media algorithms that adapt to user behavior. So rather than like forums where an individual chooses to be there and a tighter community can form, you instead have algorithms that dictate what gets shown to you. It's not entirely up to algorithms, of course, because they're just following user behavior, but now there's far less agency in what opinions you see online. And then you can get fed an opinion that you don't agree with that has lots of internet points, and that makes it seem like, hey, the majority of people feel this way, or it just strengthens that person's opinion. It makes it seem like that opinion has more weight or authority behind it. It works the same way inversely. An opinion that you do agree with that has lots of points can reaffirm your own biases as well. Essentially, the internet makes it really hard to determine what the majority of people are actually feeling about something, because we're not even really sure how many people are talking about something at a given time. And algorithms reward people for having extreme opinions, making it so that game discussions are either about a game being really, really good or really, really bad. But it gets complicated because algorithms, like I said, follow user behavior, so it shows us what we engage in. And are there even good objective qualities in games when what people are looking for in games varies person to person? For example, some people did not like the simplified RPG mechanics that Skyrim brought. But some people literally only played this game because those simplified mechanics allowed more casual players to be able to play. At the end of the day, Skyrim is a game that reached millions of players. And when you're dealing with the scales of millions of people, it becomes a lot easier to sort out the general consensus of communities of people rather than just like collectively gamers as a whole. Before I forget, Skyrim, I'm ranking it here. I've ranked it. What do you think? Fallout 4 on launch was released on the Xbox One, PC, and PS4. So by the time Fallout 4 released, Bethesda's reputation has been cemented in public consciousness. Even though the internet is really fragmented, popular opinions can pierce the communities they started in and become accepted as fact by the general public. And now Bethesda is expected to make open world games with lots of quests. You get the gist. But Bethesda's reputation for quality is in question. And as we've seen with earlier reviews, people's opinions on game aren't based on solely their experiences, but also the expected experience someone hopes to get out of the game. So when someone hears a lot of people talking about bugs in Bethesda game and they play a Bethesda game and come across a bug, it'll probably leave more of an impact on them than if they hadn't heard about bugs beforehand. It also might mean they start looking at the game and engaging with the game in a way they wouldn't have beforehand. Like, that doesn't change the inherent truth that a bug happened. But I think the mental processing of that experience changes depending on whether or not they've seen opinions about those bugs beforehand. Does that make sense? That makes sense, right? I'm the YouTuber here. I get to say that makes sense. It makes sense. We'll look at reviews now. Let's look at the reviews. After spending roughly 40 hours with the game, I can safely place it somewhere in the middle of Fallout 3 and New Vegas in terms of quality. A lot of the franchise's signature problems have carried over directly into Fallout 4, but all of its charms have come along for the ride as well. It managed to do a whole lot right, but the story drags at times. And glitches never change. I think Bethesda's established reputation is why they started experimenting with their next couple of games. And in Fallout 4, that experimentation came from base building. The magnitude of the world is awe-inspiring. And even with the lukewarm additions of crafting and building, Fallout 4 manages to be as enthralling an experience as any open world adventure to date. So just like literally anything, opinions on base building are mixed. However, I do feel like there's a bigger disconnect between the critic score and the user score for this game. Whenever a new feature is added to the game, I feel like there's more of a resistance to it the further away it is from people's expectations. Not a lot of people were going into Fallout 4 expecting to be able to build like a house or a settlement. With Bethesda being stuck with their reputation, it doesn't mean they can't change people's perception of them or their games. It's kind of weird. Bethesda games are still selling well, despite the bugs and the lackluster graphics. So why would Bethesda bother changing anything? So imagine for a moment that the next Elder Scrolls actually releases. Crazy, I know. But when it finally releases, it feels like Skyrim. Exactly like Skyrim. Yeah, it would be exciting at first. Skyrim is great, and after 15 to 60 years, however long it takes for them to release it, people would probably start to expect more. People are going to expect better towns, better NPCs. Something in that game needs to stand out. You see, like, the jump from Morrowind to Oblivion is large. And the jump from Oblivion to Skyrim might not seem as large, but with the addition of dragon shouts, more detailed towns, better voice acting, a lot of what Skyrim did really improved on Oblivion. To some people, again, varied opinions, it's subjective. But the thing I really want to focus on is that those technological jumps came from experimentation. And post Skyrim, Bethesda was experimenting. But when you experiment, you create risk. Fallout 4's base building might have came from a place to make the game more approachable, to be able to build a home in an unforgiving wasteland. Honestly, it feels like the last 10 years of Bethesda have been defined by experimentation. Some of them obviously not so good, like Fallout 4's dialogue system. Others super successful, like Fallout 76, at least after a couple years of fixing. Now, before I rank Fallout 4 and talk about Starfield, I want to bring up the people that worked on these games. Because these people are easy to forget about when talking about these huge AAA games. Each of these games are made up by real human beings with real talent, and without their input or creative passion, we would literally not be talking about or playing any of these games. I just wanted to take that second to appreciate the art before we move on to Starfield. Fallout 4, ranking it right there. We all know Starfield had an explosion of negativity surrounding it. Before we get into that, I do want to focus on one positive review first. Starfield is the most potent value proposition for Game Pass, being the killer app for the subscription service. I wonder if this dude would say that after the recent price hikes. We're being positive though, this is a no negativity segment. It is also the best, most ambitious game in the Xbox Studios library to date. It would not be a stretch to say that this could be one of the most ambitious games ever made, and that it followed through with many of those goals with relatively low compromise. Many people would disagree with that last part. Played for more than 100 hours and spent probably 10 of them.
Tried so much to like this game, but
Please remake game. 1. It must be closer to Fallout 4. 2. Bases we can make. Defend and bring people to them. Not that unready, not complete sing. 3. No half generation of the planets. Or a handmade all game or proper generation with random dungeons. Are you listening, Todd? Are you listening, Todd? The discourse behind Starfield has been dominated by the critics of this game. For every positive review I could find, there were 3 or 4 negative ones. Which, not to say that not liking Starfield is bad. I'm not trying to say that people should not be not liking this game. But I do think Starfield is a perfect example of the problem around video game reviews. On the internet, we respond to negativity way more than positivity. So in a fragmented internet, a way to have a popular opinion that pierces the bubbles they're in is to make that opinion extremely negative. So when something bad happens or a game flops, we oftentimes see opinions like that way more than if a game's really good. Oh yeah, like Ghost of Yotei is really good, but are you hearing about it as much as you heard about Starfield at launch? I don't think so, but maybe that's the bubble I'm in as well. You can't even tell what the public perception of things are in unless you're following specific topics. And things are so fragmented, it's hard to keep track of everything. How do you even know when something's really good or really bad based on reviews? And the people that are criticizing oftentimes get better engagement because, again, negativity draws in people's attention, which boosts that opinion even more. And well, it means that people obviously did not like Starfield. People have legitimate complaints about this game. I just have to feel that some of these reviews aren't necessarily from people who played the game. These negative reviews may not be an honest perception of how everyone feels. And going off our own personal experiences with the game would be best, but games cost money. In a perfect world, we would not have to rely on these reviews. We would just be able to play the game and form our own opinion based on our personal experiences of the game in isolation without comparing. But we don't live in that world, and reviews are important. And based on these reviews and people's opinions, Starfield just didn't live up to what people expected from a Bethesda game, or a space game. I mean, you had people coming from No Man's Sky, Star Citizen, Elite Dangerous. Those games affected people's opinions on this game as well. And like I said, I think Bethesda's been experimenting, and Starfield is the game that strayed the furthest away from what people wanted out of a Bethesda game. All of these things stacked against this game, and just opened the floodgates of negativity around this game. So are Bethesda games better when they're worse? Well, take a look at these. I hope I put them above me. It's just, honestly, these rankings are still just my opinion. They're based on my opinion of the collective research I did, but they're still an opinion. We crave understanding and objective truth. We quantify and sort the world around us, and it's easy to sort things into good and bad boxes. But when it finally comes time to determine what's actually the truth, we aren't able to do it. It's honestly really cool to think about it. We can play the same game, but have vastly different experiences about them. But at the end of the day, at least we can all agree it doesn't get much better than Morrowind. Morrowind's the best.
Video complete.